welcome to our deep dive. And this time, we're looking into something a little different.
Different how?
Well, it's still therapy, but not the kind you might picture right away.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're going to be exploring how movies and videos are being used therapeutically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you know what? The research is so fascinating.
Really?
Absolutely. We found this review article from Frontiers in Psychology, and it looked at 38 studies all about this topic.
Wow, so using visuals in therapy, that's got to be pretty powerful.
It really is, and it speaks to just how potent visual media can be, right?
Definitely, it's not just some fringe idea.
No, not at all. And it's a growing field with some really compelling evidence behind it.
I'm excited to dive in.
Me too.
Yeah.
So to get us started, let's clarify some terms.
Okay.
There are two main approaches we'll be talking about.
Okay.
First, there's cinematherapy, which uses existing commercial films.
Got it.
And then there's video treatments, which use purpose-made videos for specific therapeutic goals.
Okay, so cinematherapy is like finding therapeutic nuggets in the movies we already love.
Exactly.
Like all those times we've talked about life lessons we've learned from movies.
Exactly. That's cinematherapy in action.
And it actually goes back to bibliotherapy.
Using books for healing.
Right. Which makes sense. We connect with stories.
Totally.
And as VHS tapes became more common, people started seeing the potential to use film in a similar way.
Absolutely.
Then video treatments, on the other hand, are about creating targeted content for specific needs.
Exactly. And you might be wondering, can watching a movie really have a therapeutic effect?
I mean, it makes sense, but how does it really work?
Well, let me give you a real-world example from the research.
Okay.
This one study used Shrek 2 in couples therapy.
Wait, Shrek 2, the animated movie.
Yes, Shrek 2.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought of that.
It helped a couple realize how their families were interfering in their relationship.
Interesting.
They saw parallels between the overbearing characters and their own experiences.
Okay, I see.
And those parallels led to some really important insights for the couple.
That's pretty amazing how a film, even an animated one, can hold up a mirror to our lives, isn't it?
It really is. It's like those relatable characters and storylines can trigger those aha moments.
And those aha moments help us see our own situations in a new light.
Exactly. Okay, now let's shift gears to video modeling.
Okay.
This technique is super relevant if you work with kids or if you have kids of your own.
Okay.
So imagine showing someone a video of a skill they need to learn.
Gotcha.
It's like YouTube tutorials,
Mm-hmm.
but for things like social skills or managing emotions.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
It's really fascinating stuff, and especially for individuals with autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah, I can see how that would be useful.
A lot of the research we're looking at focused on ASD and how video modeling can help them learn skills.
Cool.
From everyday conversations to navigating social situations, it's a very visual way to learn.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
And there's even video peer modeling.
Video peer modeling.
So it's where the person demonstrating the skill in the video is similar to the viewer,
Oh, interesting.
like someone their own age, It really highlights how we learn by observing others.
That's a good point. The closer the model is to the viewer, the more effective the learning.
Absolutely.
It's all about creating relatable connections.
Yes. And then there's video self-modeling. This one's super interesting.
Video self-modeling.
What is that?
So imagine someone struggling with public speaking, right?
Oh.
They'd record themselves giving a presentation.
God,
And then the therapist edits the video to remove any signs of anxiety or hesitation.
interesting.
And the final product shows them speaking confidently and successfully.
And the person watches that edited video over and over again.
Exactly.
Wow. So they're essentially watching an idealized version of themselves.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to boost confidence.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about how I could apply this to my own life. So the idea is that by repeatedly seeing yourself succeed, you start to internalize that sense of competence.
Exactly. It can be incredibly powerful, that visual element.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's like rewiring those mental pathways to associate public speaking with success rather than anxiety.
That's really cool. Now, we've covered cinematherapy and video modeling.
Right.
But video in therapy goes even further.
Oh.
What are some other examples of how videos are being used in these settings?
Well, one study used videos to help patients with agoraphobia,
Agoraphobia.
fear of open spaces or crowds.
Ah, I see.
They gradually exposed individuals to their fears through video,
Hmm.
starting with less intense scenes and progressing to more challenging ones.
So it's like a controlled way to confront anxieties and practice those coping mechanisms. It
Exactly.
makes you realize how versatile video can be in creating safe spaces for that kind of exposure.
Right.
You don't need to actually be in a crowded place when you can just watch a video of one to start.
Exactly.
So what other surprising uses did the research uncover?
Well, there were a couple that stood out to me.
Okay.
One study found that watching humorous videos led to improvements in symptoms of atopic dermatitis.
Really?
Yeah, atopic dermatitis is a skin condition.
Wow, so laughter really can have a positive effect on our physical well-being.
It seems so.
I guess that old saying, laughter's the best medicine, has some truth to it.
Right.
What other interesting findings were there?
Another study focused on individuals with schizophrenia,
Okay.
and they found that watching comedies led to a decrease in anxiety and depression.
That's amazing.
It really shows the power of humor to change our mood.
Even in the context of serious mental health conditions.
Absolutely, yeah.
These findings are truly remarkable. It makes you wonder about using films and videos to just promote well-being in general.
For sure, even beyond addressing specific conditions.
But before we go there, I'm curious about the research itself.
Okay.
Did the review point out any limitations we should be aware of?
You know, one interesting thing they noted was that the review had both qualitative and quantitative studies,
Okay.
meaning some focused on personal experiences and others on measurable data.
Got it.
And the more rigorous studies, the ones with the controlled experiments, tended to involve video treatments, more so than cinematherapy.
Interesting. So it might be harder to study the effects of those commercial films in a controlled way.
Right, because those films weren't created with specific therapeutic goals in mind.
It makes sense. Yeah, it'd be tricky to isolate specific elements within a complex film.
For sure.
You can't exactly create a control group that watches a slightly altered version of a movie to see how it affects them.
Right.
So video treatments have an advantage there.
Yes.
They're designed to target specific outcomes from the beginning, which makes it easier to measure.
Makes sense.
But that doesn't mean cinematherapy isn't valuable.
Oh, absolutely not.
It just means we might need to look at the research differently. So what about effectiveness overall? Did the review find consistent results?
Well, the good news is that most of the studies did show positive effects.
That's encouraging.
It is. It suggests that using film and video in therapy holds a lot of promise.
That's great to hear.
It is, yeah.
But were there any studies that showed negative effects?
There was one study that kind of stood out. It was about using a documentary on smoking cessation to help people quit.
And
It didn't work.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it shows these techniques aren't a guaranteed fix.
Right. It's not a magic bullet.
Exactly.
It's a tool that needs to be used thoughtfully.
Absolutely.
And even the most promising approaches don't work for everyone.
Right. That's a good point.
There are so many individual factors at play.
Definitely.
But even beyond the clinical setting, there are takeaways for all of us, right?
Absolutely.
This research really makes us consider the impact of film and video on our lives.
Yes. And encourages us to be more mindful viewers, aware of both the good and the bad effects.
So even if we're not using these techniques in a formal setting, we can still apply these principles to our own media consumption.
Exactly.
And maybe even think about how have movies impacted our own emotions,
Right.
our understanding or behavior.
Or if we've ever felt like a character was reflecting our own life.
Yes. And especially for children, being mindful about what they're watching,
For sure.
knowing how impactful it can be.
Absolutely. That's a really good point.
So are we more aware of what we're consuming now?
Yeah, good question. Welcome back to our deep dive into film and video in therapy.
It's wild to think that something as simple as watching a movie can actually be good for you, right?
It is pretty amazing.
Before the break, you were talking about how these techniques could be used for more than just ASD.
Yeah, exactly. It's not limited to just one thing.
Okay, so let's expand a bit on that.
Here.
You mentioned graded exposure therapy for things like anxiety and phobias.
Right.
Can you break down exactly how that works?
So it's about slowly exposing someone to what they fear through videos.
Okay. You start with less intense scenes and slowly work your way up to the scarier ones.
So like if someone's afraid of heights, you might start with a video of someone on a stepladder and then work up to them standing on top of a building or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about slowly getting used to it.
But in a safe way.
Right, in a safe environment.
The video just provides a visual.
Yeah.
So they can confront their fear at their own pace.
And without actually being in danger.
Right. That makes sense.
That's the key.
It's really amazing how we can use technology to create these virtual experiences.
It is. It's pretty incredible.
So we talked about videos for depression earlier.
Yeah.
How else can video help with that?
Well, one interesting area of research is using video to promote mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
Yeah, and relaxation. Things like guided meditation videos.
Right.
Those can be really helpful in managing stress.
It makes sense there are so many apps and online platforms for that now.
There are. It's super popular.
Video just seems like such a natural fit. Absolutely, and having that visual can really make a difference.
Yeah, like watching calming nature scenes.
Exactly, or even listening to soothing music.
Right, while someone's guiding you through it. It's like having your own personal retreat.
Right, in your own home.
Exactly. So we've talked about all the good things, but are there any downsides or risks to be aware of with these video techniques?
That's a good question.
It's important to look at both sides.
Absolutely. And like any therapy tool, video techniques have to be used carefully and ethically.
Can you give an example of what could go wrong?
One concern is triggering bad memories or emotions.
I see.
For example, if someone's using video exposure therapy for something related to a trauma,
Okay.
you have to be really careful about what you show them.
Yeah.
Showing them the wrong thing could actually re-traumatize them and make things worse.
That makes sense. It's got to be a really delicate balance.
It really is. It's super important.
Well, working with a therapist is key.
Yes, definitely. A trained professional can assess what's needed.
Right. Choose the right materials.
And keep track of how things are going.
To make sure the therapy is actually helping.
Exactly. That's the goal.
So it sounds like the therapist is a crucial part of the process.
They are. They guide you through it.
It's not just about watching videos, right?
No, it's about actively working through things.
Using the videos as a starting point.
Exactly. For discussion, reflection, and to help you grow.
So these techniques are meant to be used in therapy with a professional.
Yes, that's where they're most effective.
They provide the support and expertise you need.
Right, to help you get the most out of the experience.
This has been really enlightening. I'm learning so much.
Me too.
So we've explored all these different techniques, video modeling, graded exposure therapy, even comedies for your mood.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But what about for our listeners? What if they're not a therapist? How can they use this in their own lives?
You know, what I love about this research is that it encourages everyone to be more mindful about what they watch.
Mindful viewers?
Yeah, we can start paying attention to how films and videos make us feel.
Like, do they make us feel good?
Or do they make us anxious?
Do they change how we think about things?
Exactly. Becoming aware of those things can help us make better choices about what we watch.
It's like we're all becoming film critics in a way.
Kind of, but instead of just focusing on the plot or the characters...
And analyzing the emotional impact it has on us.
Right.
And this is especially important for parents.
Right, absolutely. For anyone who works with kids.
We talked about how video modeling works.
Yeah.
But that same idea, learning by watching, applies to everything kids are exposed to.
It really does. It's so important to remember that.
So next time you're picking a movie for family movie night, think about what it's promoting.
Yeah, what values or behaviors?
Is it teaching good things like empathy?
Or problem solving?
Resilience.
Right. Or is it showing unhealthy things as good?
It's not about being super strict.
No.
But being aware of the potential impact.
Exactly. And you can use those movies to start conversations.
Oh yeah, like after the movie, ask your kids what they thought. What did you think about how that character handled that situation? Would you do the same thing? It's like movie night becomes a learning experience.
Exactly. It's a great way to connect.
So what about adults? How can this research change how we watch movies?
It makes you think more deeply about what you're watching.
Okay.
You're not just watching anymore. You're asking yourself how it connects to your own experiences.
I've totally had moments where a character's struggles or triumphs just hit me on a personal level.
Right.
It's like, wow, I've totally been there.
It's powerful stuff.
It really is. It's like it validates your own experiences.
Yeah.
It helps you understand things better.
And you realize you're not alone.
Exactly. So even movies that aren't specifically for therapy can still be therapeutic.
They can, just by making you think and become more self-aware.
I love that idea. So how can we apply this to different genres?
Well, like romantic comedies, they can get us talking about healthy relationships.
Okay.
Historical dramas can teach us about different time periods. Even sci-fi movies, they can get us thinking about ethics and what it means to be human.
It's like each film is a mirror reflecting our own beliefs and values.
Experiences.
Yes. And by looking at those reflections, we can learn so much about ourselves and the world.
That's the whole point.
This deep dive has really changed my perspective. I'm already rethinking my relationship with movies.
That's great.
But before we move on, is there anything else you want to add about the practical applications of film and video therapy?
One thing to keep in mind is that these techniques aren't meant to replace traditional therapy
Right.
or medication.
So it's not about choosing one or the other,
Right, it's about using them together.
like a team effort.
Exactly. For some people, watching a movie might help them open up in therapy,
Interesting.
or it might be a way for them to practice coping skills.
So it really depends on the person's needs and goals.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to work with a therapist.
They can tailor the approach to each person.
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
It's like finding the right combination of tools that work best.
Exactly. And these video techniques are just one piece of the puzzle.
But they're a piece with a lot of potential.
They are. It's exciting to see where this field goes.
I agree. This conversation has been so insightful. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been great talking with you.
I'm already thinking about how to be more mindful about what I watch.
That's great to hear.
And I hope our listeners are too.
Me too.
Now, should we move on to our final takeaways?
Sounds good to me.
Welcome back to our final thoughts on using film and video in therapy.
Yeah, it's been a pretty deep dive, hasn't it? From Shrek and couples therapy to the idea of film prescriptions.
And we've talked about the research and the techniques and what they can do, but let's make this really practical for everyone listening.
Absolutely. Even if you're thinking, this is cool, but I'm not a therapist, this stuff can still apply to you.
All right, we've touched on it, but it's worth saying again, all this knowledge can help you be a more mindful viewer.
Exactly. It changes how you approach watching things.
Yeah, it's like you're not just watching for fun anymore.
Right. You're thinking about it more deeply.
Analyzing it, reflecting on it, and considering how it might affect you, your mood, your thoughts, even your behavior.
Especially for parents or anyone who works with kids, that's huge.
We talked about video modeling, but kids learn by watching everything, not just those specific videos.
So true. So important to remember.
So next time you're picking a movie for family night, pause for a second and think about what it's showing.
Yeah. Is it teaching good values like empathy or problem solving?
Showing kids how to be resilient.
Or is it making unhealthy stuff look cool?
It's not about banning everything, but being aware.
And you can use those movies to talk to your kids after the movie, ask them what they thought.
Like, how did that character handle that problem? Would you do the same thing?
Exactly. Get those conversations going.
Movie night with a purpose. I like that.
It can be a great way to learn together.
What about for us grown-ups? How does this change how we watch movies?
It's about going deeper, not just passively watching.
Okay, how do we do that?
Ask yourself, how does this connect to my life? What am I learning about myself or the world from this?
I've totally had moments where a character's going through something, and it's like, wow, that's me.
It's a powerful feeling.
It is. It's like it makes you feel less alone.
And it helps you make sense of things.
So even movies that aren't meant to be therapeutic can still have that effect.
Just by making you think and be more self-aware.
So how can we apply that to different types of movies?
Well, romantic comedies can get us thinking about healthy relationships. Historical dramas can teach us about different times and places.
I accept.
And even sci-fi, those can make you think about big questions like ethics or what it means to be human.
Wow, so many layers.
Right.
It's like each movie is a mirror reflecting our own beliefs and values.
And our experiences.
Exactly. And when we pay attention to that, we can learn so much.
About ourselves and the world around us.
This has been an eye-opener. I'm looking at movies in a whole new way now.
Me too. It's been fascinating.
So just to wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners? Any advice on how to be more mindful about the movies we choose?
Yeah, I'd say think of every movie as a chance to learn and grow.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what's this story teaching me? How is it changing my perspective? What can I learn from this experience?
That's such a cool way to look at it. It's like movies aren't just entertainment, they're opportunities.
Exactly. And even if you are just watching for fun, there's always something to gain from going a little deeper with the story.
So even those silly movies have something to teach us if we're paying attention.
Absolutely. That's the magic of storytelling. It connects us, it teaches us, it inspires us, and it helps us understand the world.
So powerful. Those are some great words to end on. This deep dive has been amazing. We've learned so much about the power of film and video and how they can be used to help us grow and heal.
It really is a fascinating field, and it's only going to get more exciting as we learn more.
And we'll be here to keep exploring it with you. So until next time, happy viewing, everyone.